All right, it's zooming up. We are live on Facebook and YouTube right now. We're going to get ready to record on Zoom. I have my friend Henry Kaminski with me, and we're getting ready to do an episode of the What Are You Made Of podcast. Give me 1 second here, and we will get started. Zoom, record, this computer. Welcome back to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy, Mike C-Roc. So glad to have you here. I want to thank you for being a part of the Waymo movement. I can't do this without you. I can't do this without your listenership. And I just want to thank you. I always start the show with gratitude. I always want to thank you guys so much for joining me. And I'm excited to bring my friend Henry on the show today to find out what he's made of. But before I do that, let me introduce him. Henry is known as the Brand Doctor. He is the founder, CEO of Unique Designs with a Z on the end, and hosts the popular show called The Brand Doctor, which I had the opportunity and honor to be a guest on. And he also has a nice 150,000 or so following on Instagram. Go check him out. The Brand Doctor with a DR at the end, The Brand DR. And before I get into anything else, I want to remind people the What Are You Made Of movement and Waymo rule number 1 is all about turning setbacks, negativity, any letdowns, anything like that, and convert it into rocket fuel for your future. Once you become aware of this, guys, life is never the same. You come into a situation like COVID, for example, and you understand before it even starts to happen that this is something that's going to be a training session for you or fuel for you for your future, as long as you make it through it, right? So, Henry, welcome to the show, and I appreciate having
Mike, thanks for having me on, brother. Appreciate you.
So the show always starts like this. We always ask, what are you made of?
Pure courage, my friend. Pure courage.
Yeah. So that's something that's come from something though. So we always like to dig deeper. What's something that's happened? Where you come from? Where you been? What do you use as fuel?
Yeah.
To get to where you are.
Born and raised in New Jersey, still here, and came from divorced parents. My parents got divorced around when I was about 10 years old, and the divorce lasts for about 16 years. But let me back up a second. One of the things that has really driven my entrepreneurial spirit and motivation throughout life, personally and professionally, was the story that I was told as a young kid. My parents tried for 16 years to have a child. They just couldn't get pregnant. Back then, medicine wasn't what it is today. So they tried for 16 years over and over and over again and failed. I don't know about you, Mike, but I don't know if I would try anything for 16 years and continue to chip away at it. Maybe
that's persistence, man. That's
right.
Persistence
that's persistence, man. Like seriously. So, I hear this story, and finally, medicine gets better. My mom goes in for a quick surgery. 9 months later, here I am. Okay. About 2 years into my life, my mom comes into my room after cleaning the kitchen, whatever she was doing. I'm in my crib, supposedly sleeping, and she looks in, and I'm blue and unresponsive.
Something that's happened. Where you come
from?
Wow, man.
So they rush me to the hospital. They find out that just due to poor nutrition, I lost all the salt in my body, and it took a while. It's called hyponatremia.
So poor nutrition from whether it was nursing or the bottle or whatever, you just weren't absorbing the nutrients, right?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. So they get me to life again. And to this day, you talk to my father about this, he won't even acknowledge you. Right.
Oh, that's such a scary thing, dude.
Yeah. So, but my mother, she loudmouth Italian woman, from northern New Jersey, would always tell her girlfriends, like, I'm her miracle baby. I'm her miracle baby. It took me 16 years to have him. And as like a 6-year-old kid, I thought like women were pregnant for 16 years. I didn't know any better. Right. Right. So I hear this story. And as I get older, I start to understand what that is and what that meant. And every time I get into, a hardship in my life, I think back of my parents and the dedication and the persistence that they had in themselves to bring me here. And I immediately, that hardship becomes a nothing, a drop in the bucket compared to. So I've used that story to this day to help drive my business and help drive, what I'm all about.
Yeah, I mean, you need to get a new view of things a lot of times. Like take a step back, new perspective.
Yeah.
Sometimes we get so wrapped up in what's going on in the heat of the moment, and our reaction mind or reactive mind starts to take over, and that's the wrong way to do things. And the analytical mind isn't there. So sometimes you take a step back and really think about that. And that's what Are You Made Of is all about, man. Is allowing your analytical mind to really understand what's going on, understanding you've been there before, you've been through something like that before. And that way you just keep pushing through and also learn from what you're going through. Right.
Oh, absolutely. We'll get into some fun stuff later where, I almost lost my business twice, not once, but twice over the past 13 years, and learned a lot of lessons going through that, especially the second time it almost happened. It almost, had I not built my personal brand, I probably we wouldn't be having this conversation today. I'd probably be working somewhere 9 to 5, just, getting along. And so there's a lot of things, building a multi 7-figure business, as is not something, it's not a walk in the park. It's not easy. And a lot of these internet marketers and entrepreneurs make it look and sound like, just push this button, build this funnel, and you'll be there shortly. And that is not the case whatsoever. To get my business to where it's at today took a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. And almost, again, like I said, lost my business twice due to poor financial decisions, due to poor mindset, just having a huge ego, being a taker, not a giver, all being so insecure that I needed to go out and do all of those material things to show everybody how successful, quote unquote, I was. And I was hurting inside.
Did you play the blame game a lot? Did you find yourself blaming others rather than taking responsibility?
Oh, 1,000%. A 1,000%. We just had a conversation. I had another podcast episode recording right after you. And we talked about successful entrepreneurs and taking responsibility for things, even when they may not even be your fault per se, but because you're the captain of the ship, it's your responsibility, and I used the example.
Yeah.
I had a designer that was on my team that just was super slow. Like he was milking the clock because these guys were getting paid by the hour. Right. So I had my lead designer doing twice as much work in half the time. And this guy is like a caterpillar. Right. And I'm seeing it because every time I pay him at the end of the month, I'm paying him double, but I'm getting half the work. So I saw it right away. And I said, I give you 30 days to straighten this out. I don't know what's going on, but here's my stats. And I pull up my time doctor and I showed the stats. You guys are getting the same kind of work. You guys are building out really high premium website design. But why is this person, why is designer A, I don't want to say names.
Yeah.
Why is designer A cranking out double? And right. So I said, I'll give you 30 days. If you can figure that, if we can continue to work together and figure it out, we'll continue working, but this can't continue. 30 days goes by. He sends me his timesheet, or I look up his timesheet, same shit. Next day he was gone. Right. My responsibility, no one else's. Right. So I don't play the game. I'm not pointing fingers. Oh, you're just slow. Maybe I could, right? No. Okay. Thank you for your work. Thank you for your time. You did do good work when you were here. If we need you, if we need any supplementary help going forward, we'll reach back out. But today's your last day.
Yeah. Taking that responsibility allows you to be in control, to be the puppet master rather than the puppet. Yes. And too many people think so your ego tricks you. Your ego tricks you into thinking that if you blame other people and put the blame on someone else, that you're in control. When actuality, that you become the puppet at that point. And so, yeah, it's a huge breakthrough when you can figure this out. And it's really not rocket science, but take us back. First of all, what are you into right now? What is the brand, doctor? What is the business that you have?
Yeah. So 13 years ago, I was working corporate, local hospital, working my way up. I got out of college right when 9/11 hit. So nobody was hiring. I have an uncle who's pretty affluent in the area, and he was connected into this hospital. They named the children's hospital after him because he built it. And I went to him and I said, listen, I'm dying to work. I want to get out there and work because I've been working since I was 13. I don't know what standing still feels like. Right. So he gets me this job in the hospital, and it was cleaning coffee pots. It was nothing special. Right. I had to work my way up. I was checking insurances and things like that. Well, I got my master's degree through their program, internal program in business management. And as soon as I got that degree, I went for every management position and directorial position that opened, right? Slam the door, slam the door, slam the door in my face every time. Henry, you're 24 years old. What experience do you have? Zero. It's great that you have a master's degree, but you have no experience. Sorry. Well, finally, I had somebody give me a shot. It was an assistant director position for the Children's Hospital in the Sudden Infant Death Syndrome Center. So this was a really interesting position. So
how relatable is that too? Because you were found blue in your crib at one point, right?
Right. It's I get goosebumps thinking about that. Honestly, it's so true. So I get this job as a fundraising coordinator. So I had this job that was pretty unique. This position was made for someone to raise money for sudden infant death syndrome, so fundraise, but then I had the ability to spend that money to create support events for all the families who had a baby die of SIDS in the state of New Jersey. So it was really rewarding, but it was sad. Like, I hustled my ass off to build up these fundraising events. And then I would spend that money on these. We used to take them down the shore to Point Pleasant, New Jersey, the boardwalk. We took them to Dorney Park and Wildwater Kingdom. Like, I would coordinate all these events. So cold turkey one day, I email one of the Z100 Morning Zoo hosts, Danielle Monero. And I said, Danielle, I've been listening to you since I was born. Right. I was like, here's this thing that I'm doing. I would love for you to support or sponsor the event. Well, she jumped right on, and I created this event called Rock Out for a reason. And it was an event done at one of the nightlife places that I would frequent, because one of my buddies was a club promoter. And he said, why don't you come over one day? I'll do all the flyer design for you for the event. So I go over there and I'm looking. I didn't know what graphic design was, Mike. Right. I sit next to him and he starts designing away, and I am just bit by the creative bug. And I said to myself, I want to learn this stuff because this is freaking awesome. It's like playing God. Yeah. You have a thought in your head and you could design it. Yeah. Like, I didn't know that existed. I didn't know what, right? So I get it.
Yeah. I used to take a crayon and draw with crayons.
Right. So fast forward, event goes off without a hitch. Awesome. Raised a ton of money. I go and I convince my boss to buy me the Photoshop program with hospital funds so I could do all the in-house design myself. And sure enough, I started doing all the in-house design myself. Then I started having a little side hustle on the side, doing stuff for like nightclubs and bars and things like that. A lot of club promoters started to hire me. And while I was at the hospital, those 36 months, I was building up my side hustle. When 2008 hit, and shit started to hit the fan, they started to do a lot of downsizing. And they kind of gave me the heads up of where I was going to be placed if I decided to come on board for 2009. And I told them, I'm sorry, I got to go. I got to figure this out on my own. To say that was easy? No. I went to my uncle. I went to my father. I was talking to my girlfriend, who's now my wife. I don't know what to do. This is a side hustle. Yeah, we're making some money, but I don't know if it's going to sustain my life. So I went to my uncle one day and I said to him, I don't know what to do. Can I come here and work for the construction company? He's like, Henry, you don't know anything about construction. So I said, yeah, but I don't care. Maybe I'll just put me to work. I don't care. And he's like, let me get back to you. Give me a couple weeks. He never did. It's the best thing he ever did for me. Best thing. I never went back to him and asked him again. That was it. It was, okay, Henry, there's your sign. There's your answer. Okay. So the first year I hustled my ass off as a one-man band graphic designer. Went to my bookkeeper at the end of the year, my accountant, and he said, Henry, you did pretty good this year. I said, what do you mean? Now I'm thinking maybe 60,000 or something like that, right? He said, you did $248,000. I go, what? He said, yeah, you did pretty good. And I said, whoa, God gave me a gift here. I got to run with it. So after the next 24 months, I made my first $1 million. From there, I just scaled the crap out of it. But what happened was, and this is where I almost lost the business once, Hurricane Sandy comes in. I'm spending like a sailor because I come from very humble beginnings. My father worked 4 jobs. He was a shop steward. He was a mechanic for UPS for 33 years. We mowed lawns since I was mowing lawns since I was 13 years old, right? He was doing tune-ups and oil changes on the side, and I would go with him to hand him the tools, right? So I come from very humble beginnings, but every time I would go visit Uncle Joe, I would get this prod of the lifestyles of the rich and famous. So I have my dad, who's like the working man, and I got Uncle Joe, who looks like he's like on top of the world, right? And as a young kid trying to find myself, I was like, I want this. I want the flash. I want the glam. I want the respect. I want all of that, right? So when I first started to make money, I would do a lot of flashy stuff. And it pissed a lot of people off, including my family. You know, I had family members say to myself, who's this kid thinking? This kid must be selling drugs because nobody who sells business cards and design business cards drives a Range Rover. So this is what was going on behind my back. And I finally caught wind of it, and it was hurtful, but at the same time, I got what I deserved. You know, I was the one guy, I was the one cousin and nephew that kept saying, I'll show you. I don't have to work for my family. I'll do it on my own. And I got a lot of resentment for that. Right. And again, this was all due to insecurity.
But let me stop you for a second, because to me, if you want to drive a Range Rover, you could drive a Range Rover. And if you want to spend money and you're making money and they have an issue with that, then that's their issue. Now again, this is me thinking about my situation, right? I don't worry about that kind of stuff, but how does that, before you go further into the story, I want to know something about this. I want to know why that bothered you, or why you think that it was wrong, or was there more to it that I'm missing? Because I don't see any issue right there.
I wanted to make them proud. I wanted to set an example for my cousin's kids, right? Because I'm an only child, right? So I wanted to make an example that there's other opportunities out there. Not all of us need to go work for Uncle Joe.
Right.
And it was the way I went about it, I think, that bothered them, which bothered me. Gotcha. Right. So when my parents got divorced, I had an aunt that reached out and said to my father, listen, we want Henry to still be part of our family. Right. And she made a conscious effort to include me into things. Well, when I became of age, where I was making a whole bunch of money, and I became a man, if you will, right? I was on my own, doing my own thing. There might have been times where I did things that was kind of a slap in the face to them.
Gotcha.
You see what I mean by that?
Yeah.
There was this resentment, right? That started to build because, like, you know, I heard things like, if it wasn't—
Shut the door, please.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, man.
Yeah. If it wasn't for me, you wouldn't know, you wouldn't know North Jersey. You wouldn't know this.
Right,
you wouldn't know that. Right. So that's where I got offended by that. And I let that get to me because it bothered me. All I wanted to do was make everybody proud, but it was actually having the complete opposite.
Gotcha.
Right.
So by the way, I have, we're still in the lockdown down here, and I have the kids, and they don't listen to me when I ask them to be quiet. So I thought I hit mute there. I apologize for yelling into the microphone, but
dude, no way. Listen, I got a 60-pound pit bull barking its head off right now because somebody just came to my front door. So,
well, and not to interrupt your story for a second, but a funny story real quick. I was on a podcast one time, and I had my my Instagram live set up as well. And I couldn't mute that, but I forgot that I had that up there. So I'm telling I pushed mute on the Zoom, and I'm like, shut the door, get the dog outside, real loud, right? And I'm like, okay, I'm good. I hit off mute, and then I looked up and I saw the Instagram, and I almost shit myself. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I did that. I was yelling like, shut. So yeah, anyway. Hey, that's quarantine problems, brother.
Right.
Anyway,
right.
Sorry,
Nobody cares.
No,
nobody cares.
So you were giving you were putting out the wrong image. In other words,
putting out the wrong image. and it backfired big time. Again, wasn't financially intelligent, so I would spend every nickel that I earned just to show everybody how successful I was.
Right. Yeah,
right.
I see that, yeah.
And it caught back up to me because right around, I don't forget. The numbers are the years are blurry, but I just remember the times. Right, Hurricane Sandy comes in, right, wipes out New Jersey. At the same time, Fiverr comes out. Fiverr.com comes out and disrupts the design industry. And now I'm trying to figure out how to make ends meet, because what I used to charge $300 for, people are from India are doing it for $5. How do you compete? So I didn't want to trouble anybody. I didn't want to make it look like I was failing. So I just kept riding it out to my last nickel. And I lost everything, really, and went to my wife and said, I finally got enough balls to go to her and say, listen, I got to tell you something,
Was she working at the time?
Yeah, she worked corporate ever since we met. Right. So she's concerned, she's concerned because she thinks everything was good, and instead of saying, you go figure this out on your own, like I've heard a lot of my friends say about their, spouses, she jumped off, all 100 pounds, 5 foot of her jumped off the bed, grabbed the laptop, came back in and said, let's get to work. But at the time I was so scared. I didn't know if that meant look for divorce attorneys or right. Or get to work helping me. Right. So she helped me and refocused me and helped me pay attention to what I needed to do at the time. And what that was deliver more value to the people that I serve. Because what I was doing right now was not valuable anymore.
Yeah.
So I leveled my game up and I got into digital marketing and online marketing and sales and marketing funnels, right? And I started to take my design skill set and my branding background, my marketing background, into architecting and building out sales and marketing funnels using ClickFunnels. So once I got into that world, I got back on my feet, but it wasn't until I got help from Russell Brunson himself. I was listening to his podcast as I was in a Facebook group, and somebody mentioned his podcast. So I start listening to him, and he starts talking about this big mastermind group that he runs. And I didn't know anything about that stuff at the time. So I go into his funnel for this mastermind, and I get on the phone with the sales guy. Sales guy's like, it's 25K. I'm like, that's so far out of my league. He's like, but we have this program. It's 10K and it may help you. So at the time I said, listen, all I have is credit. I said, I'll give you 5K now and 5K over 5 months. Would you do it? Because at the end of the day, it's not if this program works, it's when this program works. And that was my attitude. Mm-hmm. So I jump on a phone with Russell. Long story short, within an hour speaking to him, he's like, listen, I got this new book coming out. It's called .com Secrets. I need some design work done. You're a phenomenal designer. Can you help me? And I said, yeah, what do you need? And so he told me, and I said, well, what are you looking to spend? He goes, you tell me. I said, does $6,000 sound good?
You should have said 25 grand.
Right? I said, does $6,000 sound good? He said, yeah. Wired me the money the next day. And now him and I start working together. Now I'm in his program. I'm doing some design work for him. So it's working. First year goes by. Cool stuff happens. Funny story about how I went on to work with ClickFunnels for 2.5 years and helped them get to 100 million. I'll tell you in a second. So I'm listening to his podcast. I'm watching his podcast, right? And I'm going to iTunes and I'm staring at this podcast cover. And I'm saying to myself, this podcast cover does not represent the value that he delivers on this show. So on a Sunday morning, I opened up Photoshop and I banged out this podcast cover for him. Now, this is when his podcast was called Marketing in Your Car. Okay.
Yep.
So I sent him this podcast cover. I said, Russell, I don't care if you never use this, but take it, because this design, in my opinion, represents the value that you deliver to your audience, right? So, oh my God, this is so awesome. Thank you so much. Nothing happens for 2 months. He gets bit by the branding bug by someone, comes back to me and says, hey, Henry, do you have that podcast cover again? We're doing some updates over here. I need a couple different sizes and dimensions, blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Go ahead. So I give it to him, right? The next day he hits me up and he says, we're doing some massive changes over here in ClickFunnels, and we need somebody to come in and bring everything into consistency because we want to get this to 100 million plus, right? So would you be willing to take that on? And I was like, does it bear shit in the woods?
Let me think about it.
Right. So for the next 2.5 years, I was the one that basically consolidated all of the look and feel and messaging for ClickFunnels, which 6 months later, they went and did 100 million. So that experience and that part of my entrepreneurial journey will be in my memoir forever. And it was a great thing. So now what we focused in on, so fast forward, over the past 3 years, we've only focused in on working with personal brands that want to scale their business online and need the proper branding, messaging, positioning, and vehicle to do this online.
What has that done? What working with ClickFunnels, what did that do for your business? Besides the money that you got from that, though.
Well, it definitely established another level of authority. So I did have a client in the past say to me, Henry, I liked your work. I always admired you, but one of the big selling points for me was your website and Russell Brunson going to bat for you.
Dude, it's all about altitude, right?
Yeah. So he was like, when I knew that you were working with him closely, like that was it for me. I was sold.
Yeah.
Right. So that was huge for me, and Russell and I still have a great relationship. He's promoting a new book and he'll be coming on the podcast soon again to promote it. But he taught me a lot about digital marketing. He taught me a lot about funnels. And I took all of that knowledge and ran with it, right? And said, where is my skill set? Where am I great? What am I great at? And how can I mold those two together? So now a lot of folks that come in and work with us through the Brand Accelerator program is simply folks that found funnels and they're like, oh my God, this could definitely help me scale, but they're stuck. They don't really have an online presence, or if they do, it's very lackluster at best. They have a product or service that's selling, but there's that gut feeling that they're a little uncomfortable, that they're not being represented the way that they should. And they come on board. We take them through a 90-day program and we get them the brand strategy that backs their entire brand. We get them the logo they need, the social media identity they need, the content strategy they need, the website they need, the funnel they need. And it's all one package. So it's just done for you. This is your branding development accelerator program, and you'll be out the door running, making money in the next 30 days.
What is the key to finding your brand though? What is the one or two, what's the most important things to look at? And also, if you don't have a good product,
that's it.
Yeah. Do you get with some consultations with people and say, dude, you don't really have a product here, or your product sucks, and you have to tell them that?
It's one or the other.
Two questions there.
Yeah. So let me go backwards. So the one time I had a prospect come to me and say, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I need branding help, blah, blah, blah. I said, what are you selling? And she was like, well, I'm selling to people that went through the same experience as me as a mother. And I said, okay, I get that. I said, let me ask you a question. Would you buy what you're selling? And she said, probably not. I said, then this conversation is too premature. You need to go back to the drawing table and find a product that people are willing and able, 2 words there that are very specific, willing and able to buy. Because so many people go online and they're like, oh, do you want me to create this course about? Yeah. And everybody goes, yeah, create it. Yeah, do it. Then you create it. And then you go back to them and say, okay, here it is, go buy it. And they're like, I don't know about that. I don't want to buy that. Right. So willing and able is the key words there. Right. So that's number one. But the first thing, if we back up a sec, is understanding what branding is, right? Branding isn't the logo, the website, and the fanciness of your business. It is the gut feeling people get when they interact with you in your business. That's what branding is at its core. Okay. So when you walk out of a room, what are they saying about you? That's brand at its best. Okay. Don't get that twisted. Because when people talk about branding, they're like, oh, no, I got that. Like I went to Fiverr and I got all that branding stuff done. No, that's not it. So that's number one. Number two is foundational things, right, is who the hell are you serving? It boggles my mind, but I have to be empathetic to this because not everybody is branding experts. Not everybody loves branding as much as I do, but I fell for this 13 years ago. I didn't know who the hell I was really selling to, right? So when you don't know who you're selling to and you don't know their pains and challenges, you don't know how they're going to find you, you don't know what's happening in their life to make them want to reach out to somebody like you, you're in trouble. Yeah. Because you're spitballing your marketing and brand, you're spitballing your social media presence, and you're wasting a lot of time, money, and energy. Yeah. So bottom line is understanding who the hell you're serving and make sure that that's specific as possible, right? Mm-hmm. I look at personal brands. I look at purpose-driven brands like yourself. I look at brands that want to make an impact. They're typically coaches, consultants, doesn't matter what industry, right? But they're on a mission to make the world a better place. Okay. And they're passionate about that, right? They're humble action takers that want to do good, right? Yeah. And they need the vehicle to help them get there. And I'm part of that puzzle.
What's the biggest thing you learned from Russell Brunson working with him?
Oh man, the biggest thing learning from, okay. So we had this conversation on my last podcast episode, right? The best thing that I ever learned from Russell was this: if you want to charge high ticket for your services, then you better be comfortable paying for high ticket services. Mm-hmm. Okay. If you want $50,000 relationships, then you need to invest in $50,000 relationships. Okay. So many people out there want to sell a program for $5,000 or $10,000, but never bought a $5,000 or $10,000 product.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a problem.
Yep.
That's a huge problem.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. No, I work with Grant Cardone, as you guys all know. And the more money I spend with Grant, the more money my company makes. And it's like
you hit your goal. And I hit your goal mine.
Yeah. Yeah. At first, when you start talking to someone that's a mentor or offering products or services or whatever the case is, you're like, man, how could they charge that much? Is it a scam? Is it a ripoff? But the thing is that what you find is that when you pinch pennies, you have a hard time, like you said, selling something for what because it's all about self-worth, really. It really comes down to what you feel like you're worth.
That's right.
And that's really profound, man. That was awesome.
Yeah. You are your customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. You are your customers. So if people aren't buying your high ticket program, then go look in the mirror.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because when you have that sales conversation, that comes out.
Absolutely. Yep. You got to be sold on yourself first. They say sell yourself, right? But you got to, it's really not selling yourself to someone. It's sell yourself.
Yeah.
Right.
I like it. I like the belief approach. Like if you don't believe in what it is that you're selling, then what makes you think somebody else believes in what it is that you're selling? You really need to be like, I would buy my program 15 times over again because of how comprehensive it is. It took me 13 years to figure this shit out. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, but before we forget though, what is it exactly? How can my audience engage with you? And,
so the best way to find me is on Instagram, obviously at the Brand DR. Very, very engaged over there. We have a big following over there. The Brand Doctor podcast. But if you want to go deeper into my stuff, you just go to Unique Designs. So it's Unique Designs with a Z at the end, not an S.net. And you'll get plugged into everything that I do. And I'm really just focused in on one program. I read that book, The One Thing, and that kind of changed my life. The focus that book has given me is tremendous, because what I see a lot of times when personal brands try to come online is they get bit by you got to be everywhere. You have to be on every platform producing 5 to 8 pieces of content a day. Right. And I don't know anybody that has made it big, putting in 6% effort everywhere and getting to that level, right? I know the people that made it big go all in on one thing. And that's how they get it. And then once they master that, then they move on. Right. But too many shiny object syndrome cases we're getting, right?
Yeah.
Where they spread themselves too thin and they get nowhere because they're not putting in the effort that they need.
Yeah. I agree. So, well, listen, go support Henry. The key to having great relationships is being supportive of each other. And I want to do that. One last question I want to ask you before you go, bud, is this is my favorite question. Why did you decide to come on the What Are You Made Of podcast?
Oh, man. Well, your energy is very contagious and it reminds me a lot like me. Right. And a real recognizes real. You're on a hell-bent mission like I am. And my mission is twofold. One is I want to help people demonstrate their true value and really represent themselves where they feel proud and they're ready, willing, and able to get out there and do, right? The other thing was this. I could tell you're a family man and your family means a lot to you. Same here. I have a 2.5-year-old son, and this kid is growing up so fast, nobody told me that. People said time's going to fly, but they didn't tell me this fast, right? There's going to be a day where that kid's going to be able to Google my name, and he's going to read stuff. He's going to listen to stuff, and he's going to watch stuff. And I just want him to be proud of what he sees.
I love it, dude. I love it. That's well said, man. And you know what? Speaking of the son, my son's 13. He's got underarm hair, mustache, taller than me now. I thinks he could take me, but that ain't. I still have big pipes, dude. He ain't gonna take me. But he's taller than me, and he's got hair on his hair places everywhere. Right? It's crazy because I do remember him being the little guy. I remember when he was born and he was crying, and I looked at him and said, man, Daddy's here, dude. Don't cry, And it's just crazy to think about the deep voice kid that he is now. So. But that was well said, Henry. Listen, man, I'm so glad I got the opportunity to meet you, man. And let's engage further. If you ever need anything, just reach out to your boy C-Roc, man. I'm here for you.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, man. You guys have been listening to the What Are You Made Of podcast with your boy C-Roc. Thank you so much for being here. Please go subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Spotify, or your favorite podcast platform. Also, if you like to watch these, YouTube, Mike C-Roc. Go subscribe. Tell your friends and family about us. I can't do this mission without you. I appreciate you so much. Until next time, be great.